Johnny, how you doing?
All right, how you doing? Let me turn my music off here. Hold on.
Alrighty. But yeah, so it's you see everybody that smile on Johnny's face, uh,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that you see that smile because he has said some things that have caused people to be. Johnny Eric Williams is with me today. He said some things that have caused people to not smile. But as I research his work and his academic tenure and his accomplishments, it's really designed to really educate. And it's separate apart from the Black Lives Matters movement and the NAACP and Urban League and just David Walker's appeal, and separate from Frederick Douglass's 1852 speech. If you just read any part of our history, he's right in that continuum. And I just love the fact that he's reminded people that we really have still not educated ourselves, whether you're black, white, red, green, yellow, about what this existence in on the planet these days, Johnny, but forget about this existence in North America, but existence on the planet. I think in some ways, Johnny, that this COVID thing has kind of let people know that we, for better or for worse, we're on this little speck of dust for better or for worse. So how are we going to kind of survive as we move forward? But Johnny, you've been very instrumental to me and very helpful to me. And I guess want to start off with perhaps this kind of statement, which might strike you as provocative or just routine or even mundane. So specifically, you've seen about the various municipalities and a few states even that have talked about racism being a public health crisis, right? You've seen that.
Yes.
That somebody, I might even call it a fad, a neoliberal faddish response. And I guess and I'm not gonna put any more words in your mouth after saying this, but it seems to me when they talk about racism being a public health crisis, they're really saying, and I want you to correct me or amplify, that racism kills, and whether racism kills immediately or long-term or episodically or just over the course of your lifespan, but racism actually kills, be it a pneumonia today or a bullet tomorrow. So when we talk about all these cities and municipalities, so it could be a good thing, really, at least putting in the public sphere and in fact in a legal ordinance that racism is a public health crisis. That really is, and I put on my Facebook page as well, that means that racism kills. So are we going to still be in the killing and pillage era for the next 10 or 15 years?
Well,
Johnny, or can we kind of save things?
well, look, I'm an optimist. I'm a pessimism of the intellect, optimism of the will. Antonio Gramsci, one of the people who I read. I would say that there's two things I want to say in regard to what you just said. This idea that racism is a public health issue is not new. The first time I heard it was in 1988 in Washington, D.C. I was with the Democrat National Committee Black Caucus. Now, I'm not a Democrat, though, okay? They just gave me a fellowship under the late Ron Walters, who was Jesse Jackson's campaign advisor in 1988. But the Public Health Commissioner of D.C. was the first person I know to bring up this question of that racism, it kills people, right? And racism is an action and it does kill people. That's true, okay? All right, so now people have picked it up and they have watered down what he was saying. I can't remember this doctor's name, but he's a public health doctor in DC. And now what we see is that people are throwing this out there. I mean, like the city of Hartford has passed the resolution saying that racism is a public health, racism kills, is a public health crisis. And there are other cities. I don't know if New Haven passed this or not.
Just recently, just this week.
Oh, just this week. So,
Monday.
So there's various other cities, municipalities around the country that are passing this idea, this council resolution, saying that racism is a public health crisis. Where they go from there, we don't know, because if racism, right, if systemic white racism, if it is indeed killing us, then what are they prepared to do to address those structural kinds of actions?
Indeed.
And that's the problem, is that they haven't led to any kind of structural change. These are all empty words, again, but empty resolutions, but no action when it comes to the transformation of the structures that are leading to the death of the Black body and the Black mind. Okay, so I mean, if they can't give us any action plan about what they're going to do, what use is their words?
Yes. Again, you're listening to Johnny Eric Williams, and Johnny, you're the department chair of sociology at the Trinity College and on sabbatical this year. So that means that you got to maybe try to find some time to chat also in the next two or 3 months. In terms of the resolutions, I've been posting and Googling many of the resolutions and ordinances nationwide. And some people are coming up with task forces as another study group. Others have built in some research, but you're right. The proof will be in the proverbial pudding.
But see, why are they forming all these committees and task force when that has already been done? The data is there for how to solve the problem. And the most fundamental way to solve the problem, and you ask, is it possible to, you didn't say it this way, but I'm going to say it, redeem this country. This country has been living a lie. It tells people in the United States tell themselves a lie about the exceptionalism of the United States, that we're in a nation that is not, committing genocide continuously against indigenous people, Black folk, and other folk around the world who are not classified as white, right? Who do not have a white mentality that immersed in whiteness itself, right? So it's killing people. So what do you do? How could you redeem that? I mean, it is fun. It is throughout the foundations of the United States that this kind of operation of whiteness, this ideology operates, and white supremacy. It epitomizes this kind of caring stuff. They call it caring, the Karens and stuff that they come out and they call the police on Black men or Black women and stuff like that. This has been going on, pretty much since the country has been around, established in 1789, right? And before that, really, right, during the colonial period. And so what you have to do, I think, and I know people may not like this, but you have to actually radically restructure the country, right?
Indeed.
And what that means is that there needs to be fundamental change structurally. Every institution, even culturally, has to be changed to become more human-centered rather than profit-centered, right? In which people are seeking accumulation of wealth by taking it from other people.
Indeed.
Right? That all has to change. And that's the only way the country can be redeemed. But I'm somewhat pessimistic given the history of the country that this is even possible.
But as you also alluded about 5 minutes ago, that there's a part of yourself that we all are somewhat schizophrenic. So I appreciate your mentioning to at least two sides of yourself. And your wife might say that you have 5 sides, but we won't go there until we chat with her next time. But give us in terms of from your imagination and even from just your information about politics, what would you consider to be a A1 structural change?
The first thing, I mean, I think they have to be done simultaneously. It's this. The United States as currently constituted politically and economically must be changed. It is grounded in racial capitalism. And racial capitalism is that it's fundamental to the exploitation of other people. It's the othering of other people, especially Black people, right? So you can exploit them and dominate them for profit. That has to fundamentally change. So that's one. I mean that.
Well, are you talking about a cooperative economic system, a different gold standard?
I'm talking about a system that shifts from profit seeking to one of saying, look, you are a fellow human being like me. I want to make sure that you have all the things you need to prosper in this world, to grow, right? And that is, you don't need billions of dollars. You don't need millions of dollars. You need enough to help advance humanity in yourself. Because when you advance in yourself, you advance humanity. And that's human-centered, right? And to love other human beings. Everybody on this planet has something to give, right? Right now, under this system, everybody's not giving. Everybody's being exploited for a few people, right? We can transform that around, and that means that we can transform. If everybody's giving what they can, living up to their potential, right? And we're nurturing that, right? They got housing, they have health care, free education, guaranteed income, utilities are being paid, all this stuff should be free, all this stuff, right? If people can prosper like that, they just think about it. We won't have a problem with fossil fuel. We will have a more green planet.
Mm-hmm.
This planet can sustain humanity, right? We won't have wars, right? Wars will go away. They won't be necessary because everybody's being fulfilled, right? So on and on and on. The killings, I mean, the murdering and some of that may continue to happen, but not a lot because people are being fulfilled. Right now, people are miserable, right? I mean, we don't have sports. What do sports do? Distract us from our misery, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the lawns in the suburbs. I mean, we taking care of our housing and getting into the accumulation of wealth and all this other kind of stuff in our housing and stuff. And we're miserable. I mean, we're not having relationships with people, right? Which is the most fundamental thing. That's what I think should occur. And the process of getting us there is that way. I mean, the thing is that all this stuff that these people are putting forth since the movement arose, this uprising occurred, and it's been going on for 2 months now, is that they're asking for reform. They don't want to fundamentally change the system that is exploitative, right? But it has to be changed if you want to stop these uprisings, right?
But and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you alluded to perhaps some examples where people can kind of bite into and kind of understand and digest. I think you referenced universal health care, universal income, housing, right to housing should be. So you're talking about a new bill of rights in a way.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't put it in the terms of the framers of the Constitution of the United States because those dudes was all crooks and stuff and slave owners and stuff like that.
All right.
But these are just basic human rights that all humans on the planet should have.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Not just the United States. We're not the exception. North America, South America, Central America, African continent, European continent, all of these people, Australia, everybody should have this. Asia, right? And we wouldn't be engaging in these kinds of terrible kinds of wars and exploitative relationships and this rape, this sword like rattling and stuff, like saber rattling and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need all that. People just need to, be nurtured and developed so that we can advance humanity as a collective. That's what needs to take place.
And you're tuning into the Ficklin Medium conversation with Johnny Eric Williams today, and Johnny's the department chair of sociology at Trinity. Johnny, your president released. You probably saw it this week. President Joanne Berger Sweeney pledges anti-bias training and other efforts to address racism on campus. I mention that because so many university presidents have issued either proposals or ideas about making their campuses safer over the last six weeks or so. So it somewhat amused me. Every institution that I've attended, the president has issued a statement, but this one affects you directly. I know you're on sabbatical, but it affects you directly. Does it surprise you that she has responded this way, or is this long overdue?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, look, I think the statement should have gone further.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I think it implicit bias training is a do nothing kind of thing. The structures remain in place that are causing the problem. And the structures, what I mean by that is policies and practices of the college, of the various universities and colleges around the country. It's okay to make these kinds of statements, but if you don't have a plan in place to address the specific issues, like at my college, I mean, the racism is rampant. The sexual assault is rampant. The heteronormativity of the homophobia, transphobia is rampant, right? So why is it rampant? You need to get to the root cause of it. It's because it's been tolerated within the various fraternities and sororities, as well as within the culture of the college itself, that allows this to occur, and that it is not systematically punished when it is brought to the fore. When you find somebody who make these kinds of egregious actions against people, they should be excommunicated from the campus. But they're not. It's contingent on who they are. If they come from a rich white family, then they get a tap on their wrist. If they poor, they may get more severity, right? So it depends on your status position. So I would expect from college presidents and universities around the country to be more specific instead of just issuing these empty statements that have no follow through when it comes to transforming the college campuses, period. That's what I would say.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I should say you're tenured as well.
Yeah, I am tenured, yeah.
So people,
I'm a full professor, yeah.
people need to know that. So in terms of just I want to drill down a little further since it says July, and regardless of what happens in August, September, in terms of people returning to school, or some classes returning to school, or some schools being open, some not, and there's so many different permutations I've seen thus far. In terms of if you're in a faculty meeting at Trinity, I'm not picking on Trinity per se, but just
yeah, I know, just typical.
Help people understand how you might be able to implement some. You mentioned exoneration or penalties. You mentioned curriculum. You referenced curriculum.
Yeah.
What can the faculties at various universities do to kind of stem this tide of racism being a pandemic?
Well, look, I mean, it's just not only colleges. Colleges are just a microcosm of the larger society in which we live in, which is a white supremacist society. First of all, it starts at the top. The folks at the top have to show some humility, some humbleness, and realize that they themselves have been facilitating this kind of environment on campus through their silence or through their inaction when it comes to establishing policies to address them and so forth, right? And that has been going on a long time. But I must say that Trinity has a history, as well as other colleges around the country, of being built upon the expropriation of land from Native folk, that is indigenous folk, as well as the enslavement of African people, who they use to build these institutions and fund these institutions from the get-go. So my college is acknowledging that with the Seabury Hall and Wheaton Hall, saying that they look at renaming it. I don't know what takes so long to rename a hall. If they should name it Malcolm X Hall or something. I think that'll be more in line with either Harriet Tubman or either Audre Lorde would be even a better name for Lord's Hall. I mean, those kind of things, right? So I mean, it doesn't take. This is the whole point. Is that they form committees and they're going to investigate. They're going to study. It's just all.
Let me try to relieve your angst. I'll change the subject. I'll change the subject. How's your mother doing? How's your father? How's the weather? Let me change the subject, but not totally. Let me drill down a little bit with you in terms of you have your doctorate in sociology. So so the sociology profession. I mean, people might know when it started or who started it, or it's still a social.
It's a European creation, yes.
So talk to me about you've invested your life in. So what can sociology do in terms of stemming this tide or helping to find an antidote to this virus?
Well, sociology needs an antidote for itself. It like science, it's a social science, was a creation to justify slavery. And to justify the existence of race itself, right? So, and it still does that in this kind of like timid, bigot kind of way, and that's why I'm writing a book about it, the persistence of white sociology, which is that we have to look at ourselves first and get our house in order to make some recommendations about how to change that. Sociology is not somewhere beyond this white supremacist society. We're right in the thick of it, and in many instances justifying it. So, I mean, what I would look for the remedies of this is to the people who are on the margins in sociology, and constantly on the margin. That is Black sociologists, Latinx sociologists, Asian sociologists, and indigenous sociologists. With their scholarship, which is largely ignored by most of sociology, these folks have remedies in their writing and everything. It's right there for you. It's just not critiquing. It's saying what can be done to solve the problem. And all people got to do is just go read it and to figure out what's to be done. I mean, people have put forth their 14-point plans or 12-point plans for Black Panthers, as well as others who have put forth plans given this uprising, right? I can't remember the name of. I think it was called Cooperative Jackson. May have put forth some demands, but there's other groups too. Of what needs to be done, such as basically the abolition of policing and mass incarceration. People should be punitively punished for, victimless crimes. That's insane, right? And then it falls into perpetuity because they can't get a job because they're felons or whatever. They have to admit that, so they don't get a job. So they can't get a job, so what do they got to do to eat or to get housing? They got to commit crime. They go back to jail. So they go back to jail to be exploited by them. By those like this Unicorn, which is this kind of the Correction Corporation of America. All of them exploit the labor of prisoners by paying them 75 cents to $1 an hour to produce these goods, which they sell for exorbitant prices back to the government to other people out here, jeans and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that have already been written about what to do. That's my point. And that we don't need a damn committee. We don't need a task force. We need action, right? And they can look at what people who are suffering from the oppression have said needs to be done.
Yes.
But the problem is that those people who are the oppressors don't want to give up their advantages. I mean, they don't want to give them up. So,
Johnny, let me take you back again. I want to try to plumb your optimistic side again. I'll give another attempt. My last attempt was not that successful, so let me try another attempt to plumb your either your optimistic side and or your locus of control side. So what do I mean?
Okay.
If I enter, I know you're not teaching this year, but if you were teaching this year and I'm a freshman and take your course, what books would you recommend for me to do, or how do I improve myself? If I'm a white student or a black student for that matter, if I'm a student, I want to evolve as a human, and I take your course. What kind of how are you positioned to help me evolve and to transform and to grow?
Well, as I've been doing all along, I mean, I've been exposing students to scholarship that is normally not taught at university in colleges. The first book I would recommend for them to read is Audre Lorde's book, Sister Outsider, right? I would also direct them to read the Cumberland River Collective Statement, right? Then I would get them to read books by, notice I'm citing Black women. Right? These are some of the most revolutionary people amongst us, Black women. So Barbara Smith's book, Homegirls, will be an important book to get some basis for understanding how it is that one sees these oppressions, because we're talking not only about white supremacy, what I call systemic white racism, but we're also talking about patriarchy, that is misogyny, that is sexism, right?
Yes.
And we're also talking about heteronormativity. We're also talking about class. And then from that, I would ask them to read Black Marxism by Cedric Robbins, Frantz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth, and then Black Skin, White Mask by him. Then I go from there to a basic book by what's that boy's name? He's on the top of my head now. Tommy Carey, Man Not, about Black man experiences, right? With this and how it is that we're constantly being villainized and killed for it, or being villainized, criminalized, right? Then there's a book by Crystal Fleming, which I like a lot, How to Be Less Stupid About Race.
Yes.
I mean, these are the books that I would bring to the fore, and then there'll be many other substantive articles that I would recommend that they read from journals as well as from current publications.
And then what do you ask them to do after they've read? How do you measure if they've kind of agreed, disagreed, digested, thought about?
Well, it's a three-pronged process, right? I mean, look, if you go on my campus, the students who have the problem, that is, students who are immersed in whiteness, try very damn hard, even within my department of sociology, to avoid taking a class with me.
So should your class
which
be
is sad.
mandatory? Should your class be a mandatory class for every student at Trinity?
I don't want to take all that responsibility. I mean, I don't want to be teaching racists all the time.
Sociology. Should they?
Yeah. I think they should be taking some class and any class that deals with racial capitalism, race, racism, patriarchy, and heteronormativity. They should be taking those kinds of classes. But to put that on a black professor, though, I mean, it's very traumatizing, as you know, to be black in America.
Yes.
And to deal with if you have to deal with people who are in your class and trying to hear them out, I mean, it can be very taxing.
Right.
It can be bad for your health, put it that way.
But I reference it with us being in the Zoom world that theoretically and actually technically, people throughout the world could Zoom into your class and you could be talking to millions.
Yes, I could, right. But I highly doubt that.
Well, we're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on that.
But to get to your point about, I mean, it's a process, right? So even amongst the students who are inclined to come take a class with me, they come in thinking that they know something. Black students think they know something. Latinx students think that Asian students, they think they know how to conceptualize it. But I provide a new lens by which to look at the actual action, which is white supremacy as an action, right? Mm-hmm. To discriminate against people and to kill people for their things and stuff. So students are actually in denial about it, right? They want to think about it in individualistic terms, that he's a racist, she's a racist, I'm not a racist, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, he's okay, she's okay. But in actuality, it doesn't matter if you good, mm-hmm. like you think you good, or you nice person. Racism is systemic. Mm-hmm. Everybody's implicated, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to go through that phase. So the denial stage, and then when you get through that, then you get to, oh, something may be here. This is why I'm so mad at Professor Williams, right? They usually get mad at me. Then it comes down to, they go, oh, now I see what you're talking about. And this goes over through a 15-week semester. By the time they get to that 15th week, they have a grasp of what I'm saying. Now, we do this through various means. We do this through writing papers. We also do this through exercises, right? Asking them to evaluate their friendship groups, to talk with their parents about their ideas about this stuff, because a lot of white people don't talk about their whiteness. Even the fact that you call them white, they get pissed off about that because they don't think about, they just think of themselves as human beings. Everybody else ain't a human being, but they are. They believe white equals human, but in fact, white is anti-human. Okay. All right.
So when you say that, are you echoing Ibram Kendi's popularity and his efforts?
No, I wouldn't want to be compared to him at all, because I think his book is too individualistic.
Okay, so he doesn't, the policy issues and the macro issues.
He's not addressing structures at all. Okay. No, he's not addressing structure. That's why his book is selling, because it's familiar to the people who are reading it, and they go, yeah. And he says stuff that black people are racist. He has a lack of understanding of how white supremacy works. It's a system, damn it. It's not just about individuals, right? So individuals are a component of it.
Individual conversion is not the way to go.
No. I mean,
all right.
I mean, look. Okay, look. I'm married, right? My wife, you would think that she's white. Okay, that's what people identify her as, right? And the fact is that when we moved to the state of Connecticut to look for housing in Hartford, West Hartford in particular, they discriminated against me. But when they saw her, they said, "Oh, the housing is available," but when they saw me, the housing was not available. You see how that's the system? Okay, that's how it works. So one has to understand that within a system, no one is immune. Black folks have internalized the whiteness and act accordingly and filled with self-hate, right? White people are filled with superiority. Black folks are fulfilled with inferiority. We're constantly second-guessing ourselves as if we don't measure up, right? And in actuality, the people who don't measure up are those who believe themselves to be white. They are afraid of people like us because they know that we're not mediocre as they are. So
when you say that, Johnny, and it's really been refreshing for me, because each morning I got to still struggle to kind of remain reasonably optimistic. So don't charge me
Yeah.
too much for this therapy session. I guess it's been so sociology, psychology. There's a role for both those because I hear.
Well, yes, I mean, yeah, I mean, look, we are mentally, if you read Franz Fanon, and especially Black Skin, White Mass, even W.B. Du Bois, The Souls of Black Folks, where he talks about the double consciousness and the veil, right? What they're talking about is that we have internalized this stuff as Black people, as oppressed people, and not just Black people, Latinx people, Indigenous people, Asian people have internalized this stuff, and they act it out, right? And they try to be. I mean, you know, they want us to be. Put it this way: when they have these Black people in high places, those Black people in high places have to be Black on the outside, but they have to have the whiteness mentality. So they may be. I mean, I mean, if you saw this tweet I put out, because I'm having problems with the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Bottoms, and the mayor of Chicago, as well as the mayor of Washington, D.C., and so forth, is that they paint Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, but then they don't, you know, they come back with Keisha Bottoms said the other day, this 8-year-old died over the weekend, and is that we need to, that's why we need to have police. I mean, that's a whiteness kind of thinking. The police don't protect us, they occupy our communities, right? I mean, we're the enemy.
What should she have said, in your opinion?
She could have said, look, I mean, the police, I mean, our society is a gun society. Obviously, people in this particular community have secure guns, and there are people who are using those guns for nefarious reasons like any other community. And this little girl came into the, you know, she was, you know, inadvertently, you know, I won't say word inadvertently, but she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she was killed. So with her mom, I think somebody shot into the car. But this has nothing to do with bringing in more police. She used it as a reason to justify bringing in more police.
I see.
The reason I come with shooting each other is because of the police and because of the weapons that they flood into the community.
Okay. Take me back, Johnny. Listen to Johnny Eric Williams, Department Chair of Sociology at Trinity College. And for those of you that are listening from outside Connecticut, that's located right outside Hartford, Connecticut. Johnny, you referenced, I want to just come back to this, the female revolutionaries. And I'm a Facebook addict, as you probably know. And I noticed, I'll change my Facebook page several times. I've noticed you've kept Joanne Chesmart up for like the last year or so.
Yeah, I changed it to a different, I mean.
But you've kept
her
hero.
Up.
But you've kept her up, and unfortunately, very few people would know of her. So share with folks why, for you to have her represent you on your Facebook page, that's very significant in my opinion.
Well, Asada Shakur is her name.
Yes.
She's in exile in Cuba. She was charged with some trumped up charges about being on the scene, killing of a police officer. The United States has been trying to extradite her back to the country. Obama, Bush before Obama also tried to do it, but the Cubans will not let her come back. And you know, I've gone to Cuba, twice, and they have her, you know, well secured. So, which I like, and I like her because she still has the fire, and she knows that that true change cannot come unless we abolish the system of oppression. And so that's why I have her up. But before her, I had up my hero from Mississippi, Fannie Lou Hamer.
Fannie Lou.
Yeah. And before her, I had up my other colleague who's, she's my, like I love her a lot, but Ida B. Wells Burnett from Mississippi, but from Memphis, who published the lynching pamphlets and so forth, who had a very sociological lens. So I've been doing it for a while. So this is the, there'll be another, either a woman. I had Malcolm X before I had Ida B. Wells. So, but these are the pictures I put up.
As a side note, and sometimes we can be nostalgic about history, but I really feel that we should be can choose to be inspired about history. Talk about Ida when people talk about Rosa Parks, but they forget that Ida was kind of pre Rosa in terms of some of her activity in terms of transportation.
Well, Ida B. Wells was a teacher, was a journalist, really a tremendous intellectual like Malcolm X, who talked the talk and walked the walk. And that's what I believe. I mean, and same thing with Assata Shakur and Fannie Lou Hamer, is that you cannot be afraid. You must live and you must fight for what is right, what is just, and what is humane. I believe in humanity, and I'm optimistic about us.
Mm-hmm.
Though I understand the history. That history of the United States is palpable, and it's still circulating right now, and in fact, and basically running things right now. That history, it's not in the past, it's right now.
That's right.
And we need to continue to struggle against that kind of brutality, inhumaneness, and torture that the United States government, as well as the nation and its people, represent and continue to practice. And that's what I'm doing. Even when people, try to shut you up, I think you should keep pushing forward, know your rights. I am an American citizen. I can say that I served in the military for 18 years. Unlike most of these people who blustering and haven't picked up a gun in the service of the country, which to a great extent I regret, because I paid for my college education by going through ROTC with it. But the fact is that I did it. That's more than I can say for most Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have no right to tell me to shut up for anything, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm doing what's right for the country, right for the people of this country, and right for people of the world.
And the reason, and I appreciate you sharing that. The reason I mentioned Ida B, because people know about Rosa and the buses, but they don't know about Ida B and suing so that she could ride on the train.
Yeah, well, she carried a weapon, and she was ran out of town, out of Memphis. She went to Chicago, and she continued to do what was necessary to secure liberation for humanity. That is to fight for the freedom of Black people and other people, if it will. But she was really fighting for Black people, and that's someone who loved humanity, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
that's a love of humanity, and people who tried to stop her were enemies of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I look at it.
Are you good for another five or so minutes? Or
Sure.
Or I know, did you have your lunch yet, or your dinner? Or
I really don't eat that much lunch. I mean, I don't eat breakfast either. I eat like once a day or something like that.
Well, people talk about the intermittent fasting really be the way to go for young folks at our age. They
Well, it keeps me healthy. So I walk 2 miles a day where my dog walks me. So
Excellent. Let's just linger for a second on for the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And should she have decided to say the Mississippi Freedom Party and not align with the Democrats and not the Republicans? Could she have talked about an independent party right at that point? Because even in the '64 with siding with the Democrats and going to the convention, she still was looking to be a part of that particular party rather than it. So independent.
Well, I think you should. You talking about Fannie Lou Hamer?
Indeed.
I think what they were doing was, a strategy, a tactic, and what you do is you. Could you hold on just a second, Tom?
Absolutely.
Hold a second.
You got some extra steps.
I had to tell my wife to calm down back then.
You got some extra steps until you move kind of quick, man. I like that. Yeah, you are.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you move kind of quick. Okay.
Yeah, damn near 60. But what I was saying about Fannie Lou Hamer and what she was in the tactic of the Freedom Party, the Democratic Party, right? The Freedom. What you call it?
The Freedom Democratic Party, right?
Democratic Party was a strategy. Basically, it's a first step to get to a certain place. That's the way I look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there are various steps that one has to go through. It's like this, and I'm trying to answer your question as directly as I can, right? I remember being a grad student at Brandeis University, in the 1990s. Well, not the 1980s, early
Mm-hmm.
1990s. And I was trying to help to organize the students to secure uh, basically intercultural center, which we did. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we first we called it a Black House. We
Mm-hmm.
wanted that, but then we decided to be more inclusive in Latinx as well as Asian students, right? Uh, but we had to go through a process. There were many students who were against uh, protesting. They wanted to first go through the chain,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, I want you to think of Fannie Lou's movement as she's going through the chain,
Okay.
right? Right? And then when they see that the chain is not working, that is that the step that they just took ain't working, they go to the next level.
Okay.
This is the same thing that happened in Birmingham with Martin Luther King. When they first asked to desegregate the buses, what they said was, let it be, look, we'll stay in the front until some white people get on, then we'll move to the back. That
Indeed.
was, yeah, right? And then the bus company said, no, we ain't doing it. The city said, no, we ain't doing that. You just go to the back, right? And then they came back and said, well, we just want the whole damn bus to be desegregated, right? And we ain't get on the bus until it happens. It's this kind of process that occurs over time when it comes to organizing and
Yes.
getting people to mobilize to engage in protest. So you have to look at that kind of long strategy. And the same kind of thing goes on when I was in the Occupy movement here in Hartford. There were people in there who hadn't been to protests and didn't know how to do anything. And I was like, look, you can't work through the system. You can't talk to the governors. They're not going to give you jack. It'll be reformist. It'll be this. You got to be more radical. But that movement had all kinds of people in it. So you
Mm-hmm.
had to bring along those people. You had to be patient, right? And so when you look at that and you look at where we are today, right? And relating back to Fannie Lou Hamer, where
Yes.
we are today is that when you look at the organizing that occurred from Wisconsin, and when they took over the State House, all the way to the Occupy movement, that movement, the people who organized that movement didn't go away. They went to other areas. They went to the Black Lives movement, right? They became a part of that. They also union organized. They fought for minimum wage, $15 minimum wage,
That's
stuff
right.
like that. They were still doing all this stuff. They were on the ground organizing. And what people fail to see is that when you look at this kind of uh, multiracial uprising that has occurred in the United States today
Mm-hmm.
because of what happened to, George Floyd was the precipitating factor, but it was always there, right? That organizing had been going on for a long time, and
Yes.
that's why it looks the way it does, and that's why it's sustained the way it is, right? And Fannie Lou Hamer was going through that kind of process. If you ask me, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
that's what was going on. But I wouldn't say that it was ill-advised to go along with the Democratic Party. I think that now, just like the Occupy movement, what alerted us to the fact that the Democratic Party is just like the Republican Party. They're all the 1%, right? People understand that now, and people see that Biden is no different than Trump's. He got the velvet glove off to the iron fence, right? While Biden will put it back on, like Obama did. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you're seeing. It's a rising level of consciousness, maturity among people about how it is that the political, economic system, and cultural systems are working, and therefore there'll be no going back.
Mm.
Right? I
Johnny,
mean,
let me give you the last word in terms of the no going back. And so, if someone that's listening in, and let's say someone's 15 and 16 listening in for the first time, I want you to kind of maybe design your comments, your closing comments, and address him or her. And he or she's a high school junior.
yeah. Well, you're talking about my son. My son is going to the 12th grade.
Okay.
Uh, but for those who are young, and I've actually gone over to teach at a high school to try to explain this to them. The first thing is to understand that that these oppressions that we've been talking about, these various systems of oppression, are interlocking, right? And to know that they're not individualistic, right? It's not about who's a racist, who's a sexist. It's that all of us. It's like I am, someone who could be considered heteronormative because I'm a hetero, right?
Mm-hmm.
A cisgendered man, right? So in me, I have that disposition.
Yes.
I have to be reflective about that disposition. but I also have to recognize that I'm in a system of patriarchy that helps to perpetuate that. You got it? All right.
Mm-hmm.
So then I would also tell them that they should know those definitions and be clear about that. That this is a system that requires that there be coordinated effort to take down all of these things simultaneously because they're interlocking. You can't be like I can't remember what you call it, whack-a-mole. Where
Yes.
Something sticks up and as soon as you hit one, the other one sticks up. You can't approach it that way. You got to cut them off simultaneously and get rid of them. That's the strategy. And this is the strategy that Thomas Sankara in Mozambique. Was it Mozambique? No, that's Samoa. Samoa Moshe employed this strategy, but Thomas Sankara also did. He employed this strategy of trying to approach these things simultaneously, right? And this is what the Cumberland River Collective statement tries to get us to see too. And Sister Outsider and Homegirls is that we do this collectively. So I would say have that focus in mind that it's a system. It's not just the individuals. The individuals make the system go, but they have been conditioned by the system to think the way they are and to act the way they do, you know, and to oppress other people. That's what I would say to a junior.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Johnny, thank you. Can you listen to Johnny Eric Williams, the department chair at Trinity College, and a true friend and a true griot. Can I call you that?
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know what. Well, a griot is a truth teller, I guess, a storyteller, right?
Well, yes, and we've lost the truth to our stories. We've lost the sobriety and the clearness and the historical perspective and the Sankofa perspective. So the only commitment you made, Johnny, is you're going to have to come back again. I appreciate that.
I'll come back.
And we like to talk about your book a little more.
Okay.
And religion and ideology, and again, school will be in then, probably maybe in September or October, and just to talk about whether people are gaining or losing. What have we lost in this last? What we lose in this last year about the educational problems with the.
Well, before we go, Tom, I just want to say any kind of reading without practice is a dead avenue. One reading and educating themselves must also engage in the practice.
Okay. Good point.
Okay.
Johnny, thank you so much, man.
All right, Tom.
Say hello to your dog. Say hello to the wife. Stay in shape.
Okay.
We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye, brother.
Thank you much.
Yeah.